There are afternoons when I sit quietly on an old wooden bench in the corner of the yard and feel like my heart is completely hollow. Not because I am lonely, but because I realize I am merely surviving, not truly living for myself. The day I retired, I thought to myself, moving in with my children, being surrounded by my grandkids, that must be wonderful. But no one told me that the word love can sometimes turn you into an unpaid elderly helper. No salary, no thank yous, just endless complaints and expectations. I used to stay up late and wake up early cooking, doing laundry, taking care of sick grandchildren, only to be met with sighs of frustration whenever I made a mistake. My children are not cruel, but life sweeps them away in its current, and I, like so many other grandparents, silently endure it all out of fear of becoming a burden and out of love for my children. Until one day, I sat down and cried quietly. Not because I was tired, but because I felt like I was no longer myself. And then I made a decision to live alone. Sounds unfortunate, but no. It was the choice that helped me reclaim my dignity, my freedom, and even my joy. In today's video, I will share with you why living alone in your later years is not loneliness, it is a gift. Why holding on to your own assets, not sacrificing everything for your children, is actually the most loving thing you can do. And most importantly, how to make your old age a time truly worth living instead of just existing. Before we begin, leave a comment below with a positive affirmation like, "I deserve to live for myself," and do not forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss content that helps your golden years become more free and joyful. So why is living alone actually a source of happiness? Let me share with you my own story and the meaningful lessons I have learned along the way that helped me realize this truth. My wife passed away early. Some people suggested that I should remarry to have someone to grow old, with someone to lean on during sickness and hard times. But at that time, my child was still too young. I was afraid that whoever came next would not love my child like their own. So I chose to live alone and raise my child on my own. Those years were filled with loneliness and hardship, but I never complained. I just hoped that one day, when my child grew up and understood my heart, I would finally have a peaceful old age. At first, that was exactly what happened. When my child started working, they still cared a lot. Every month they sent me a little money called to check in. That warmed my heart. But then they got married, had children of their own, and life swept them away. The calls became fewer. The words of concern felt rushed. I knew they were busy with too many things to worry about. I did not blame them, but inside the sadness quietly lingered. Then one day they said, "Dad, come live with us. It will be easier for us to take care of you. Having you around with the kids will make the house feel warmer too." I was happy to hear that. I thought maybe living alone was making me lonely, and moving in with my children and grandchildren would bring more joy. So I packed my things and moved in. At first, there was laughter. We had full meals together. I also took the initiative to help out cooking, doing laundry, cleaning the house. I thought as long as I am still able, I should do whatever I can to help the young couple. But then, things slowly began to change. I cooked meals, the same dishes I used to make for my child when they were little. But now my daughter-in-law said, "That is not really to our taste." I washed the clothes like I had always done, and she said, "Dad, just use the washing machine. Hand washing does not clean as well, and it ruins the clothes." I mopped the floors, trying to keep things spotless, but still got told, "Please do not use so much water. It is dangerous if the kids slip." Every time something like that happened, I just smiled politely. But inside, it felt like something was pushing me deeper underwater. Every meal I cooked early, hoping we could all gather and eat together. But my son was always busy meetings, business dinners, rarely home for dinner. Sometimes, by the time he returned, the food was already cold. I sat there eating in silence. The food no longer tasted good, because my heart had gone cold long before the meal. I left a glass of water near the kitchen, and my daughter-in-law gave me a disapproving look. I played music a bit too loudly, and she said it distracted the kids from studying. One day, my grandchild asked her, "Why is Grandpa staying at our house for so long?" It was just a simple, innocent question, but when I heard it, I felt frozen inside. I started to feel cautious. Afraid to say the wrong thing, hesitant to do anything for fear of bothering someone. I was living in my child's house, but I felt like a guest, no freedom and no sense of truly being myself. Then, one sleepless night, I sat by the window and thought, I have lived for my children my whole life. Maybe now, it is time to live for myself. The next morning, I quietly packed up my things and moved out to live on my own. I did not blame anyone. I just wanted to breathe freely. It was only after living alone that I began to realize being on your own is not as scary as I used to think. I started to enjoy the small moments I never dared to hope for before. And from that, I learned profound lessons I would never have understood otherwise. First of all, I regained full control over my own life. No more waking up at dawn because a grandchild was crying, or because my daughter-in-law needed something. Now I wake up when my body feels rested. I open the window to let the gentle morning sunlight into the room. I slowly brew a hot cup of coffee and sit by the window where I keep a little potted plant to sip and enjoy an old favorite song. No noise, no rush, no one pressuring me. I eat what I truly want to eat. Sometimes it is just a simple bowl of noodles with a boiled egg and a few slices of cool cucumber. But I get to prepare it myself and enjoy it in peace without anyone criticizing my cooking, without awkward glances or comments that make me feel useless. I live on my own schedule. When I feel sleepy, I go to bed. When I am tired, I rest. No need to rush to clean up before the grandkids get home. No need to finish chores just to please someone else. My entire day belongs to me, no interference, no judgment. Secondly, I reclaimed my sense of dignity. When I was living with my children, I always felt like I had to be extremely careful with everything I said and did. I was afraid to offer any advice in case I was seen as old and stubborn. I did not dare to make decisions in the house for fear of being told I was doing it wrong. Even when I wanted to play with my grandchild, I had to be extra cautious because if the child happened to fall or cry, I could easily be blamed for tiring them out. I was once someone with a respected position at work, the head of a family, the rock that my wife and children relied on. Yet in my old age, I sometimes felt like an unpaid helper, rarely acknowledged when I contributed and easily criticized when I did not. There was a time when I just wanted to share my thoughts on how to raise my grandchild. But before I could even finish speaking, I was interrupted. "Times have changed, Dad." I went silent. Not because I agreed, but because I did not want to lose face in front of my children in the very house I was living in. Since living on my own, everything changed. I no longer worry that my words will be misunderstood. I do not have to tiptoe around the house or ask permission to do basic things. I make my own decisions in my own space, small as it belongs to me. No sarcasm, no comments that leave me wounded. I do not need to force myself into the noisy, fast-paced life of younger generations. I live slowly, calmly in a way that suits my age. And that does not make me feel out of place. It makes me feel like I am still a person of worth. Third, I kept control of my money. I am not a wealthy man. My money comes from a monthly pension and small savings from a lifetime of hard work. I used to think I am old, I do not need much. I will give everything to my children so they can take better care of the family. Back then, I believed that was right. But then I realized giving away all your finances, even to your children, means placing your life in someone else's hands. And if they forget about you, you are left with nothing. Now I manage my own money. It is not much, but enough to hire help once a week, buy what I like at the supermarket, and occasionally treat myself to a meal or a quiet outing. It is not wasteful. It is choosing to live with joy. I do not have to ask for money to buy slippers or hear things like, "Dad, you are old, no need to spend." I do not need anyone to manage my finances. I still know what I am doing. Money cannot buy love that is true. But managing your own money means keeping the power to choose how to live, what to eat, where to go, and how to care for yourself. That power to choose is freedom. And then something unexpected happened. Distance made our family stronger. When I lived with my children, we were all exhausted. I felt smothered. They felt annoyed by my old habits. But after I moved out, every visit became precious. Now my child visits weekly, not out of duty, but love. Meals are warmer. My grandchild loves coming over because Grandpa's place is a special little world for us. I once thought living separately was selfish, but it turned out to be a way to protect our love, giving each person room to breathe, to live, and to appreciate each other more. I am not here to say you must live alone. I just hope those who feel afraid, dependent, or lost in sacrifice will pause and ask themselves, am I truly living or just existing? You do not need to live with your children to prove your love, and you do not have to lose yourself to be a good parent. In old age, if you are still healthy and clear-headed, hold on to your right to live a meaningful life. Not everyone is lucky enough to have children who are truly filial, understanding, and respectful to their aging parents. And even fewer realize early on that depending completely on your children is putting yourself in a vulnerable position, sometimes even a tragic one. I have seen too many people my age fall into heartbreaking situations, all because of one blind belief: just give it all to my kids, and they will take care of me. There was an elderly neighbor who worked hard his entire life saving every penny. When he retired, he sold his house and divided the money among his children. At first, they were attentive and caring. But a few years later, when the money ran out, he was passed around like a burden. Everyone was too busy, always coming up with excuses. I visited him one day and found him sitting alone in a dimly lit room, his hands trembling as he poured tea. He smiled, but his eyes were red. Another person, once a respected teacher, moved in with her son after retirement. She cooked, babysat, cleaned non-stop from morning until night. But if she happened to break something, or if the grandchild caught a mild cold, she was immediately blamed. No one remembered how many generations of students she had educated. No one cared that her back ached every night. From a mother, she had turned into an unpaid housemaid in her own home. Then there are those whose children pressured them to transfer the ownership of their home. Just in case something happens, it will be easier for us to handle everything. Trusting their children, they agreed. But everything changed after that. The children changed. The Locks took control of the finances, limited contact with neighbors, and even forbid their parents from going outside without permission. The house that was once their safe haven had become a cage, locking away the rest of their old age. Even worse, some were placed in nursing homes by their own children, not because of serious illness or dementia, but simply because they were seen as too much trouble. It is not uncommon to see elderly parents sitting by a window, waiting for their children to visit, only to be left waiting for months on end. The loneliness in a nursing home is nothing compared to the pain of being abandoned by your own flesh and blood. What all these stories have in common is this: when elderly people give up control, when they trust too blindly, sacrifice too much, and surrender their independence too early, they are placing their fate in someone else's hands. Now, not all dependence leads to mistreatment, but when you hand over all your assets and your entire life without keeping anything for yourself, you are letting others decide how your life ends, and that is a risk no one can guarantee. Old age, more than any other time in life, needs respect, needs to be heard. But that only happens when you still hold on to your right to choose where to live, how to spend your money, how to take care of your health, and most importantly, your freedom. After seeing all these things, I started to ask myself, how do we make sure that growing old does not turn into a burden, or worse, into being a slave in your own life? The answer lies in 3 golden principles, simple but deeply important. And I want to share them with you as a sincere message so you can avoid the painful mistakes so many have made. First principle, keep your assets in your own name. Do not be in a hurry to sign over your house or transfer all your savings accounts to your children just to make things easier for them. You may trust your kids, but life is unpredictable. Once the assets are no longer in your name, you also lose your right to make decisions. Keep your assets in your name until the end of your life. If you want to divide things fairly, write a clear will with legal advice. That is how you protect your rights and avoid conflicts later on. When you have assets, you have a voice. And when you have a voice, you have freedom. Second principle, protect your health like it is gold. Nothing matters more than having a body that can still move and a mind that is still sharp. If you are healthy, you can live independently. If you can take care of yourself, you will not be a burden, and you will not feel guilty or pressured by anyone. Make time for at least 30 minutes of physical activity each day. Walking, breathing exercises, light yoga, or even just doing chores at your own pace. Eat well, sleep on time, and go for regular health checkups. And most importantly, do not wear yourself out, taking on too much for others. Old age is not the time to try a little harder. It is the time to rest and be proud of a life well lived. Third principle, maintain your own space and your own rhythm. Whether you live alone or near your children, always keep a little space just for yourself, a small room, a quiet corner, a personal routine that brings you comfort. Do not let your habits and time get swept away by others. When you have a real home, even a small one, you will always have a place to return to rest, to be yourself. Visit your children when you feel happy, but have the courage to return to your own home when you feel tired. Family love does not require living together. It requires mutual respect for each other's space. Once you have reclaimed your freedom, your dignity and your right to make your own decisions, the next big question is, how do you live alone in a way that feels joyful and truly meaningful? It may sound simple, but once you begin, you will realize your later years can absolutely become the most beautiful chapter of life if you know how to make the most of them. The first thing you should do is learn to simplify your life. If your health is not what it used to be, do not push yourself to do everything alone. Hire part-time help to come clean, do laundry, and take care of household chores a few times a week. The house stays tidy and clean, and you gain more time to rest, relax, and enjoy life. Living alone does not mean doing everything by yourself. It means knowing how to organize your life in a way that is easy, light, and comfortable. Next, make the most of this precious time to live for yourself. Treat yourself to small joys, a stroll through the park, a short trip to a nearby beach, or even just riding the bus to watch the city wake up. If you feel curious, you can absolutely sign up to learn a new skill: painting, cooking using technology, or joining an online class designed for seniors. This is not about becoming an expert. It is about reminding yourself that every day is a new chance to learn and grow. Another important thing, take care of your emotional well-being. Grow a few plants, adopt a pet, or spend a few minutes each morning meditating, breathing, and listening to yourself. These simple acts can greatly lighten your spirit and bring peace to your days. Also, stay connected with your children and grandchildren, but through love, not expectation. Call when you are happy, when you have something to share, not just to check in. Send your grandkids a story or a photo of a blooming flower. When you live joyfully and independently, their calls will come from love, not duty. Living alone is not isolation. It means fully taking charge of your life. When you care for both body and mind, you will see how calm, free, and fulfilling life can be. That is the true gift of aging. Old age is not the end, it is a new beginning. You have every right to live better, live differently, and stay true to your worth. If you feel stuck or drained from giving too much, then let today be the day you make a change. Start by reclaiming your right to decide. Live simply but intentionally. Know when to help and when to rest. Eat what you enjoy, sleep when needed, and go where your heart feels at peace. Do not fear being alone, because when you live fully for yourself, joy will always be by your side. And above all, stay connected with your family through genuine love, not through pressure or duty. When you live happily and proactively, you become an inspiration, teaching your children and grandchildren what real healthy love looks like. Before we wrap up, leave a comment below as a commitment to yourself. Write something truly positive, like "I deserve a peaceful and independent old age," or any message you would like to send to your future self. And if this video brought you something meaningful, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone you care about. Let us spread this message together. Growing old does not need to be pitiful. It deserves to be respected, to be free, and to be fully lived. Thank you for watching until the end. I will see you again in the next story.